I'm proud to announce I'll be covering every expense for my son's wedding. The restaurant erupted in applause. Crystal glasses clinked across white tablecloths. My brother Brendan leaned back in his chair like he'd just closed a major business deal. A satisfied smile spread across his face. Then my father looked directly at me. And Cassidy, well, you've always been independent. I'm sure you and your fiancé can handle yours just fine. Soft laughter rippled around the table. Awkward, uncomfortable. My fiancé Marcus's hand tightened around mine under the table. My face burned, but I kept smiling. I'd learned to always smile at these family dinners. My name is Cassidy Vaughn. I'm 30 years old. I work in commercial real estate. And in that moment, surrounded by my extended family at Brendan's engagement celebration, I realized something fundamental. I had never been my father's priority, not when I graduated college with honors while Brendan barely finished, not when I bought my first property at 26 while Brendan lived at home until 28, not when I built my career while Brendan's startup failed and Dad covered his debts. Never. But that night, I stopped trying to be. The drive home was silent. Marcus stared at the road. I looked out the window at passing streetlights, my mind replaying that announcement over and over. I'm proud to cover my son's wedding. Not our weddings. Not both his children. Just his son. My brother had always been the golden child. The pattern was clear when I looked back. When Brendan crashed his first car at 17, Dad bought him a newer one. When I got a speeding ticket at 18, I paid the fine myself plus increased insurance for a year. When Brendan's tech startup collapsed owing investors $60,000, Dad covered it to protect his future opportunities. When I got into graduate school, I took out student loans. It'll build character. Dad had said, character apparently only needed building in daughters. Marcus finally spoke. Are you okay? Yes, I said. And I meant it, because I just decided something important. If I was going to be independent, I'd be powerfully independent. If I was going to be on my own, I'd make sure everyone remembered it. A week later, the formal wedding invitation arrived. Brendan and his fiancée Sophia had chosen their venue. I opened the heavy cardstock envelope. Elegant calligraphy, expensive paper, location, Hawthorne Estate. I paused mid-sip of my coffee. I knew that property. I knew it well. Hawthorne Estate was a historic mansion on 12 acres just outside the city. Old money elegance. Marble, everything. The kind of place that photographed beautifully and cost a fortune to maintain. I also knew something most people didn't. The estate had changed ownership 18 months ago. The new owners were struggling financially. I'd seen the property details cross my desk through a colleague who specialized in luxury real estate. They were quietly looking to sell. Very quietly. Then I remembered something else. My father had mentioned booking Hawthorne Estate for a major political fundraising gala in 6 months, an event tied to a commercial development deal he'd been pursuing for 2 years, an event he'd been bragging about for months. Interesting timing. I called my colleague in luxury properties the next morning. Nina, that Hawthorne Estate listing you mentioned last month, is it still available? Discreetly, yes, she said. The owners are motivated, but trying to keep it quiet. They don't want to look desperate. Can you get me the numbers? For a potential buyer? Absolutely. The file arrived in my email within 3 hours. Purchase price, $3.2 million. High, but not unreasonable for the location and property size. Current financial status, bleeding money on maintenance and staffing. The estate needed at least $500,000 in deferred maintenance. Existing contracts. Several events booked, including 2 large family celebrations with non-refundable deposits. I opened my investment portfolio spreadsheet. Between my savings, the equity in my condo, and a line of credit I could secure, the numbers worked. Barely, but they worked. I didn't rant, didn't complain, didn't call my father to argue. I scheduled a property inspection for that weekend. Hawthorne Estate was even more impressive in person. I walked through it in heels and professional silence, taking notes while the current owner, an elderly man named Howard Sterling, followed nervously. The bones were spectacular. Imported Italian marble, original chandeliers from the 1920s, ballrooms that could host 200 guests easily. But the infrastructure was aging. The heating system needed replacement. Several bathrooms required updating. The exterior stone needed repointing. You've been managing events here. How long? I asked. My family owned it for 40 years, Howard said. But after my wife passed, it's become too much. The overhead is crushing. I nodded sympathetically. I saw in the listing that you have existing bookings. Yes, several, including 2 major family events with substantial deposits. The contracts transfer with ownership if someone purchases. And those contracts are solid, legally binding. Absolutely. My attorney drafted them personally. I examined the ballroom's ornate ceiling. I'd need to review all existing contracts as part of due diligence. Of course. We discussed numbers, timeline, contingencies. By the time I left, the idea had stopped being fantasy. It had become a plan. My father called 2 days later to check in. How are the wedding plans coming? He asked with that casual tone he used when he didn't actually care about the answer. Moving forward, I said neutrally, Good, good. Listen, I wanted to mention that my gala at Hawthorne Estate is really coming together. We've confirmed 3 state representatives and the mayor. This event is crucial for the Riverside Development Project. Of course, it was crucial. Everything my father did was crucial and important and worthy of attention. Sounds impressive, I said. It will be. The venue alone makes a statement about the caliber of the project. He talked for 10 more minutes about political connections and development timelines and investment projections. He never once asked about my venue, my budget, my plans. He ended the call with, You've always been strong and self-sufficient, Cassidy. I admire that. He had no idea how right he was, or how much I was about to prove it. Marcus found me at our kitchen table that night, surrounded by financial spreadsheets. You're seriously considering this, he said. Not a question, an observation. I am. He sat down across from me. This isn't just about spite, right? I looked up, meeting his eyes. No, it's not about spite. Then what is it about? I thought carefully. It's about being done, with being small, with accepting less, with pretending it doesn't hurt when my own father treats me like an afterthought. And buying a $3 million property proves that. No, I said, but investing in myself does. And if that investment happens to shift some power dynamics, that's just strategic positioning. Marcus smiled slightly. You sound like your real estate pitch meetings. Good, because that's exactly what this is. A strategic acquisition with personal benefits. We restructured our finances that night, combined our savings, calculated the line of credit we could secure, reviewed the investment potential of the property. It was aggressive, but not reckless. Everything I did with calculation. I submitted an offer through an LLC 2 weeks later. Sterling Properties, LLC, not registered in my name. Clean, quiet, professional. The offer was fair, but firm. $2.9 million contingent on inspection and contract review. Howard Sterling's attorney called my attorney within 48 hours. We'd like to accept with minor adjustments. We negotiated. I held firm on price, but offered flexibility on closing timeline. 3 weeks later, the offer was accepted. Hawthorne Estate was mine. My brother had no idea his wedding venue's ownership had just changed. My father definitely didn't know, and I intended to keep it that way until the perfect moment. I spent the next month in detailed contract review with my attorney, Patricia Hayes. These event contracts are solid, she confirmed. They transfer completely with ownership. You're obligated to honor them unless there's a breach. And if there is a breach, she pulled out my father's gala contract, specifically. Then this clause here gives you the right to terminate with refund of deposit. I read it carefully. A promotional clause. The client agreed not to publicly advertise the venue as a partner or sponsor without written authorization. Has anyone violated this? Patricia pulled up her laptop. Let me check his social media and press releases. 10 minutes later, she smiled. He announced the gala location in a press release 2 months ago, called Hawthorne Estate a strategic partner venue, without final ownership authorization from the Sterlings. Is that a breach? Technically, yes. Minor, but enforceable if you chose to enforce it. I saved that information carefully. The closing happened on a Wednesday morning. I signed papers in Patricia's office while Marcus held my hand. When the final document was notarized, I owned a historic estate worth millions. I also owned a powerful piece of leverage. I didn't announce it publicly, didn't post on social media, just quietly transferred the deed and updated the property management. That evening, I called the estate manager Howard had employed. My name is Cassidy Vaughn. I'm the new owner of Hawthorne Estate. I'd like to continue employing you if you're interested. Oh, she said, clearly surprised. Mr. Sterling mentioned he'd sold, but didn't say to whom. Yes, I'm very interested in staying. Good. I'll need a full review of all upcoming events. Contracts, deposits, special requirements. Can you have that ready by Friday? Absolutely. I scheduled a meeting at the estate for Saturday morning. Time to review exactly what I now controlled. 3 months passed before I made my announcement. 3 months of careful preparation, of understanding the property, of planning my wedding with meticulous attention to detail. It happened at a family dinner, my mother's birthday celebration. The conversation turned to weddings, as it always did lately. Brendan's fiancée, Sophia, talked excitedly about their plans. The ceremony will be in the main ballroom at Hawthorne Estate, then reception in the garden pavilion. Everyone nodded appreciatively. My father added, "It's a perfect venue, very prestigious. Actually, I'm hosting my major fundraising gala there in 3 months as well." About that, I said casually, setting down my wine glass. Everyone looked at me. Marcus and I have decided on our venue too. We're also getting married at Hawthorne Estate. Brendan choked on his drink. Sophia's eyes widened. My father blinked. You booked there too? I didn't realize they had availability. I didn't book it, I said calmly, meeting his eyes. I bought it. Complete silence. My mother spoke first. You bought Hawthorne Estate? Yes. 3 months ago. The ownership transferred, and I've been managing the property since. My father's face had gone pale. You purchased a $3 million property without mentioning it. You purchased Brendan's entire wedding without mentioning you'd refuse to help with mine. I replied evenly. I learned from the best. Brendan found his voice. So, you're our landlord? Technically, yes. But don't worry, your contract is solid. Your wedding will proceed exactly as planned. The relief on his face was visible. My father wasn't relieved. Cassidy, we need to talk about this. We can talk now, I said. Or you can call me tomorrow during business hours. I'm available either way. The dinner ended early, Marcus, and I left while my mother tried to calm my father down. In the car, Marcus started laughing. That was incredible. That was just the opening move, I said. The real play was still coming. My father called that night at 11 p.m. You bought that property to spite me. No, I said calmly. I bought it as an investment. The fact that it houses both family events is coincidental. Coincidental, he repeated. You don't believe that? I believe I made a smart real estate acquisition. The property was undervalued, has strong event booking potential, and positions well for future appreciation. This is about the wedding money. This is about me building my own life, with my own resources, exactly like you said I should. Silence on the line. Your gala is still scheduled. I continued. I have no intention of interfering with legitimate bookings. Legitimate, he caught the word. What does that mean? It means contracts will be honored as written. Have a good night, Dad. I hung up before he could respond. Then I reviewed his gala contract one more time. That promotional clause violation was documented, saved, ready, but timing mattered. 2 weeks before my father's gala, sponsors started confirming attendance. He'd been promoting this event for months. Promised high-profile political guests, local media coverage, important investors. His Riverside development project depended on the connections he'd make at this event. He told everyone who'd listen how important it was. I watched from a distance, said nothing, attended family dinners, and smiled politely. Brendan's wedding was in 6 weeks. My wedding was in 2 months. Everything was proceeding smoothly. Patricia called me on a Monday morning. Are you ready? Send it, I said. The letter went out that afternoon. Formal legal notice to Mr. Theodore Vaughn regarding his event booking at Hawthorne Estate, due to contractual breach of promotional terms outlined in Section 14B, specifically unauthorized public partnership representation. The event booking was hereby terminated. Full refund of deposit enclosed. Professional. Legal. Final. Patricia delivered it via courier to ensure receipt. My father's call came 30 minutes after the courier confirmed delivery. What the hell is this? He shouted. It's a contract termination notice based on breach of terms. I said calmly. You're canceling my gala 2 weeks before the event. The contract gave you clear guidelines about promotional use. You violated those terms in your press release 2 months ago. That's a technicality. It's a contractual clause you agreed to. I'm simply enforcing it. Cassidy, this will destroy months of planning. I have sponsors confirmed. Media scheduled. This makes me look incompetent. Then perhaps you should have read your contract more carefully, I said, or better yet, treated all your children with equal respect. Silence. Then his voice changed. Lower. Angrier. This is blackmail. No, this is property management. You violated terms. I'm exercising my right as owner. I could sue you. You could try. But Patricia assures me the contract is airtight. You'd lose and waste money on legal fees. I could hear his breathing, heavy with rage. You're humiliating me to get back at me for not paying for your wedding. I'm enforcing a contract you violated. What you feel about it is your business. The fallout was immediate. Sponsors started calling my father asking about the venue change. The optics looked terrible, suspicious. Why would a venue cancel on such an important event? Rumors spread. Problems with the property? Financial issues? Event mismanagement? My father scrambled to find an alternative location, but comparable venues were already booked. He ended up at a hotel conference center. Nice, but nowhere near the prestige of Hawthorne Estate. Several major sponsors pulled out. The media coverage scaled back. His Riverside development deal didn't collapse entirely, but it stalled significantly. The political connections he'd counted on making didn't materialize. He was furious. called multiple times, sent emails I didn't read. But legally, there was nothing he could do. Patricia had made sure of that. My mother called instead. Cassidy, your father is very upset. I imagine he is. Can't you reconsider? This is damaging his business relationships. He damaged our family relationship, I said quietly, for years. This is just the first time it cost him something. She sighed. I don't know if he'll forgive this. I don't know if I care anymore, Mom. Brendan's wedding happened on schedule. Flawless. Elegant. Everything they'd planned. I made sure of it. The estate manager coordinated every detail perfectly. The flowers, the catering, the music. My father attended, but he watched me differently now, not with dismissal, with caution. The power dynamic had shifted fundamentally. I danced at my brother's wedding, smiled in photos, celebrated genuinely. This had never been about hurting Brendan. Brendan approached me during the reception. Thank you for not canceling. Your contract was solid. I said, simply, I honor my commitments. He understood the implication. Unlike our father, I kept my word. Family dynamics changed after that. Relatives whispered. Aunts and uncles who'd witnessed that dinner announcement had questions. You actually bought it. That took guts. I heard your father's event got canceled. I answered professionally. Real estate is my business. This was a good investment. Some family members looked at me with new respect. Others thought I'd been vindictive. I didn't care about either opinion. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the overlooked daughter. I was the woman who'd made a power move, and no one would forget it. My father and I didn't speak for 6 weeks. My mother played intermediary, trying to smooth things over. I didn't push for reconciliation, but I didn't close the door entirely either. The ball was in his court. He'd have to decide if his pride was worth permanent estrangement. My wedding day arrived on a perfect October morning. Sunlight streamed through Hawthorne Estate's tall windows. My estate. I'd planned every detail personally. No expense was spared, but every dollar was mine and Marcus's. No debt, no dependency, just ownership. Marcus found me in the bridal suite. How do you feel? Powerful, I said honestly. He kissed my forehead. You did this. Built this moment entirely yourself. We did this, I corrected. Together. The ceremony was intimate. 150 guests in the main ballroom. The same ballroom where my father's canceled gala would have been. I didn't mention that to anyone, but I thought about it as I walked down the aisle. Every step on marble I owned. My father waited at the end of the aisle to walk me to Marcus. I debated whether to let him. Marcus had offered to walk me himself, or my mother, or no one. But I decided to offer my father one more chance. He took my arm gently. His hand trembled slightly. You look beautiful, he said quietly. Thank you. We walked in silence for several steps. Then he whispered, I'm sorry. Not for the wedding funding. Not for Brendan's favoritism. Just sorry. It wasn't enough. But it was something. I squeezed his arm once. Acknowledgement without absolution. He left me at the altar with Marcus, and I married the man who'd supported me through all of this. In the home I'd bought with my own success, the reception was exactly what I'd envisioned. Guests marveled at the venue. This place is stunning. Did you really buy it? Someone asked. I did. I confirmed. That's incredible. I thanked them and moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations. Every detail had been funded by my career, my investments, my work. No one could take credit but me. My father gave a toast, short, controlled, to my daughter Cassidy, who's always been strong and independent. and to Marcus, who clearly knows strength when he sees it. The crowd applauded. It wasn't the apology I deserved, but it was public acknowledgement, progress, if not resolution. After the reception, my father pulled me aside. We stood in the estate's library, surrounded by books and quiet. "I underestimated you," he said. I met his eyes. "Yes, you did. I thought paying for Brendan's wedding was supporting him. I didn't realize how it would hurt you." "You didn't think about me at all," I corrected gently. "That's the problem." He flinched. "You're right. I don't need you to pay for my life." I continued. "I never did. I just needed you to see me as equal to Brendan, to respect my choices as much as his. I see that now. Do you?" I asked. "Or do you just see that I have power now?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe both." At least he was honest. "Where do we go from here?" he asked. "That's up to you," I said. "I'm done chasing your approval." The months after my wedding brought changes. My father's development deal eventually recovered. Smaller, quieter, but functional. He learned caution, learned to verify contracts before assuming anything. I expanded Hawthorne Estate into a profitable event business. Corporate bookings flooded in. Weddings, galas, conferences. Within a year, the property was generating significant revenue. I hired professional management, upgraded the infrastructure systematically, built the brand carefully. What had started as a power play became a genuinely successful investment. My real estate career flourished. Clients respected someone who'd made such a bold acquisition work. Marcus and I talked about starting a family, about building a life in a home we'd purchased together. Everything I had, I built myself. My relationship with my father never fully recovered. We were cordial, polite. We attended family events and maintained appearances. But the easy closeness some daughters had with their fathers never developed. He never apologized properly, never acknowledged the years of favoritism explicitly, but he never dismissed me again either. He asked my opinion on business matters sometimes, respected my real estate expertise, treated me like a competent adult rather than an afterthought. It wasn't love, but it was respect. And respect, I'd learned, was more reliable than affection anyway. Brendan and I remained close. He'd never been the problem. He'd just been the beneficiary of our father's bias. My mother tried to smooth things over periodically, but I didn't need smoothing. I'd made peace with who my father was, and more importantly, with who I was. Here's what I learned through all of this. When someone refuses to invest in you, invest in yourself. When someone underestimates you, let them. And when they try to celebrate without acknowledging you, build something so undeniable they can't ignore it. I didn't buy Hawthorne Estate purely out of spite. I bought it because I was done being small, done accepting less, done pretending equality didn't matter. Canceling my father's event wasn't revenge. It was enforcement of boundaries, of consequences, of the principle that actions matter. He'd taught me I had to be independent, so I became powerfully independent. He'd taught me to handle things myself, so I handled them better than he ever could. The wedding funding was never really about money. It was about being seen, valued, treated as equal. And when my father refused to see me, I made sure he couldn't look away. I own Hawthorne Estate now. I own my success. I own my worth. And I've never felt richer, not because of the property or the money, but because I finally stopped asking for approval I didn't need. I'm Cassidy Vaughn, and I don't just attend events anymore. I own the venue.